Oh my goodness. What a finish. What a finish. Welcome on into this special live edition of Locked on Auburn. I'm your host, Zach Blackerby. Thank you so much for making Locked on Auburn your first listen every single day. Ben Taylor of the Auburn Network, Auburn Opelika this morning host, joins us. Auburn beat South Carolina 66-63, where everything that could go wrong for Auburn went wrong. But oh my goodness, they find a way to finish.
Yeah, I really had high hopes coming into this game of Auburn bouncing back and playing almost a flawless game. And I'll be honest with you, the first part of it was kind of flawless. They were just trading buckets. South Carolina was doing a good job of scoring. Auburn was doing a good job of scoring. And then all of a sudden, when people did start missing, we just got absolutely blasted on the boards. And Janai Broom got put in a box and could not do anything. He had 2 points, I think, in the first half, if I'm not mistaken. And so it just looked bad. You and I were texting, and we were just like, this just looks bad. And credit South Carolina. They did everything they could. You got the number 2 team in the nation coming into your place. Dawn Staley's courtside. They bringing back all kinds of alums to sit up there and sit courtside as well. So credit South Carolina. But Auburn did everything they could to lose that game and grabbed victory from the jaws of defeat this time around.
No kidding. Goodness gracious. And we'll talk about Janai in a second.
Yeah.
Because obviously that's a big deal. And there's only so much we can do with the information that we have right now. But this is a game that you went into, and I said it all week, like Auburn should win this game handily. Clearly they did not. Every metric in the world said that. The only thing that said, hey, South Carolina's got a shot is it's at South Carolina, and it's tough to win on the road in the SEC. And obviously you cannot take any of that for granted moving forward. Goodness gracious. You had dudes step up late. Tahad Pettiford, ice in his veins. Thank goodness South Carolina. Pringle, was that his name? Pringle?
Pringle
thank goodness. Like he's the opposite of Tahad Pettiford as far as today, just like totally falling apart there. Oh my goodness.
Well, and credit the bigs for staying out of trouble. We got in foul trouble in the first half. I mean, just about everybody had 2 fouls. All of our bigs did in the first half, and I worried. And then
what did you think of the officiating?
The officiating was inconsistent. I don't mind it as long as they're calling on both ends. The 2 called on Janai in the first half were ticky-tack fouls. I texted you. I said, he never left his feet and he got called for a foul. I mean, come on. Right. Like that's pretty weak. I understand the flagrant one, but I don't think that was a flagrant one because that guy wasn't even attempting to get a rebound. He basically just turned around to square up, hoping that Chaney would run over him, and Chaney did. So I didn't like the flagrant one because it was kind of baited. And Chaney didn't really – anytime I look at flagrants, I look at you're purposely running somebody over. He didn't do that, and he didn't throw a hand or an elbow or a shoulder to the face. So I didn't like that call. And then a little bit late, I told you when they had a chance to score, and they got the foul down. Of course, it led to 2 missed free throws. So good that it happened probably, but he walked up at the top out on the wing, and that was not called. And I was sitting there thinking that's going to bite us. He just walked, and he's going to get away with it, and he's going to score 2 free throws.
We've seen that before, sadly.
Yeah. So everything about being an Auburn fan and watching this was starting to come to fruition because even when we came out and tied it up real quick, I thought, okay, here we go. Second half, we're going to make a run, start hitting some threes. And I think Fishback said it best at the half. You know, when Auburn's been successful, they've hit 10 or more threes. When they've not been successful, they haven't. And it just wasn't falling today for the Tigers.
All right, Bruce Pearl. I don't know if it says on the radio broadcast. I can't imagine he's doing a post-game presser. So
not yet. No, he's
so he told either ESPN or I guess radio post-game. He's got a significant sprain, is the quote. Pearl added that when the team gets back to Auburn tonight, Broom will undergo an MRI. So significant sprain. Honestly, kind of better than what it looked, if that's the case. I mean, if you would have told me that was a fracture, I mean, I'm no doctor, but it's like we've seen similar injuries before, and it puts them out for the year. So hopefully, what he said to the SEC Network, significant sprain. So we'll see what that looks like.
I'm assuming he said sprain. I told you when he hit the floor and he held his leg up, it looked dislocated, like it popped out. I call it the Tony Finau injury whenever he played golf because he went running down the fairway and he popped his ankle out and he reached down and popped it back in. That's what it looked like happened with Janai when he leaned over, it came back in. And then everybody says when that happens, it's never happened to me, but they say that your foot goes numb for a little bit. Maybe that's why he wasn't putting weight on it. I'll say this about Janai. First off, let me lead with I love Janai Broom, and I do think he's the player of the year. Okay, now that I got that out of the way, he's a little dramatic when it comes to injuries. He left the floor during Georgia State. I thought that his shoulder was basically going to have to be operated on at halftime during the Georgia State game. The way he left the floor and was holding it, I thought broken collarbone during the Georgia State game because of the way he was holding it. He did the same thing last year against somebody with that shoulder where he went running off the floor.
I think it was the exhibition game, if I remember right.
Yeah. So he has a tendency to kind of freak out. But I'm not in that position. I'm not a Division I basketball player when something initially gets hurt and the thought process goes through your head of, is my career over? Like maybe that kind of hits them in the head or something. But I am hoping that drama is what took place and that I think precautionary, they may not play him against Mississippi State Tuesday night, which kind of sucks.
Ben, I'm going to be surprised. I mean, it's going to be a minute. So I just got a text from a doctor who supports the show. High ankle sprain takes longer to heal than that of a fracture. Once again, I'm not a doctor. Just saying. Yeah. So it didn't look good to me. I can't imagine he's going to be back next week. I hope I'm wrong. Gosh, I hope I'm wrong. There is a video surfacing on Twitter and other places, I assume now at this point, where he went back out on the final possession. He wanted to be there. And then somebody said that he wanted to be there with post-game prayer with the team. And so there's video of him not putting weight on it. He's still having, two guys carry him essentially, but he wanted to be out there with his team. Take that.
So I haven't seen the video, and you guys jump in the chat and tell us, did he have a boot on?
He did. No, he had like a brace on, it looked like.
Okay. All right. So as long as he wasn't in like an air cast, that would have really worried me if he would have gone out there in some sort of air cast.
I'm looking at it right now, Ben. It almost looks like it's iced. Like it's wrapped with like saran wrap. It looks like there's ice on it. So
what if he warms up and plays Tuesday night?
I hope he does, right? Like that's the best case scenario, that it's like, oh, it must not be that bad, but
yeah.
He's still not putting weight on it. And he's in the video is being carried by, Chris Moore. So
Chris Moore does it all.
Ultimate team guy.
He's ultimate team guy.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
It is.
Oh, we've got some on-field journalism happening by Benjamin. He was wrapped in ice. He says he was there in person. So thank you, Benjamin McCrory. Wrapped in ice. That's what it looks like in the video. So thank you for confirming that, Ben. Yeah, I mean, Mississippi State's obviously a good basketball team, but you got to think like Auburn. I said this after, Janai hurt his shoulder earlier this year when we went live. Like this team, if they don't make the Elite Eight, I think most people are going to feel bummed. And I don't think you can do that without Janai. So you let him sit as long as possible. If you lose against Mississippi State, whatever. If you lose 2 or 3 SEC games, whatever. I think Auburn's still better than most SEC teams, especially at home.
Yep.
Without Janai. But as far as like national champion, like they need Janai to do that. So once again, like who cares? Like who cares if you drop 1 or 2 while he's sitting? It's worth it. Like you got to make sure he's good to go in March.
Well, the one thing you got going for you is the next few home games that Auburn has. Auburn plays and shoots better at home. So it's not that you don't need Janai. You do need Janai. But I think you'll get better guard play at home than what we saw today on the road. And I think you can kind of lean into that a little bit at home in front of the jungle, in front of the home fans, that they can get away with a win or 2 at home that, you would like to have Janai, but if it behooves them in the NCAA tournament to rest him and make sure he's at least at 90% going into the tournament, I sit him. I sit him and let him rest and hope, ask Dylan to step up. You saw Ja'Kai Howard, who had a big block today, also hit a 3. Like he's got to step up. Tahad, once Janai went down, Tahad was having a bad game until Janai went down. And then all of a sudden he stepped up. So I think it's a next man up mentality for these guys, and their roles will switch if he's not on the floor.
Yeah, curious to see what that'll look like. Jeff Goodman tweeting, Auburn coach Bruce Pearl just told me that early indications are that Janai Broom's ankle injury is a significant sprain. And then there's a quote, that's what we think as far as missing some time. We'll get some more tests tomorrow to make sure. So probably going to miss some time, which I don't think is surprising. And I think everyone agrees. Let's be cautious as possible. The goal here is not to go undefeated in the regular season in conference play. That's not the goal.
No.
The goal for this team is to win a natty, and you need Janai to do that. You need Janai to do that.
Like you have to, if you're on the team, like you said, it's a disappointment if it's not Elite Eight. I think if you're on the team, Zach, I think their goal is Final Four minimum with an opportunity to play in the national championship, and you need Janai in order to make that happen. They're not a Final Four and Elite team without Janai Broom. So sit him, rest him, make sure he's good. And at least, as I said, 85, 90% when he comes back, because and it's one of those freak accidents too, when they showed the replay over and over. I mean, he stepped on Chaney's foot, his own teammate, and turned that ankle. And it's those kind of injuries are frustrating because it's not like he was going all out and got injured in an ultra hustle play or something. So it sucks, but they gotta weather the storm, and hopefully no break, no surgery required, nothing of that nature, and he can just ice it, heal up, reduce the inflammation, and be back in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I hope you're right. All right, who was your player of the game? Drop that answer down below, and also, what'd you think about the officiating? Genuinely curious about people's thoughts on that. That's next right here on Locked On Auburn. Today's show is brought to you by our friends at TurboTax. Ben, we all stress about taxes.
I hate taxes.
Yeah, nobody likes taxes. But hey, TurboTax gets that. And they said, hey, we're going to make it as easy as possible. They know that taxes don't need to be complicated or stressful. And TurboTax is here to help change the game by matching you with a TurboTax expert who can get to work on your return right away. I mean, how many times are you going through all the paperwork that you've amassed? And it's like, do y'all need this? Do y'all need this? Well, you're going to get paired with somebody who can answer all those questions at TurboTax. Ready for stress-free taxes and the most money back guaranteed? Head over to TurboTax.com today and get matched with your expert who's ready to take your taxes off your plate. Only available with TurboTax Live full service, real-time updates only in the iOS mobile app. See guaranteed details for over at TurboTax.com/guarantees. Thank you so much for making Locked On Auburn your first listen every single day, and these postcast shows your first stop right after every single Auburn basketball game. Auburn wins 66-63. Janai Broom leaving the game with what Bruce Pearl has called a significant sprain. He's expected to miss some time, so we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Most people saying Tahad Pettiford for player of the game. I'm seeing a lot of Miles Kelly as well, and to me, that's definitely where the discussion goes. Is it Tahad or is it Miles?
Well, and I would even throw in, scoring-wise, he didn't have a great game, but I would throw in Chad Baker-Mazar because I'm not sure, you got it sitting in front of you, what his minutes were, but he was asked to play a lot. Yeah, he was asked to play a lot tonight and did so without fouling out, which we know he's usually good for 3 or 4 games. So I would throw his name in the discussion just because of the role he had to play, not necessarily the impact as much as it was he had to step up and be a leader as well as somebody to kind of fill the void. Even down low, he was asked to, come off the 3 spot and go down and hit the boards and try to get Auburn in some transition areas. So I would throw his name in there as well.
Yeah, I think I'm going to give it to Tahad because of the 2 made free throws to ice it.
There's no doubt, because on that play, and I was talking to you, we were already sitting here, and I said, why is Tahad shooting the free throws? Because I was streaming it, but I was bouncing back and forth because the ball went into Chad Baker-Mazar, so I thought they were going to put him on the line. And even the announcer said, that was stupid. You put the guy that's the best free throw shooter in America on the line. But it was an off-ball foul they called on a hold on Tahad. So I was a little frustrated at first, but then Tahad steps up there and buries both of them, man. I mean, never touched the rim, so good for him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Tahad, I mean, that's kind of what we've said, big game Tahad. We've seen him step up in the big games, and this wasn't necessarily a big game, but it was a game where Auburn had its backs against the wall, and Tahad found a way to help carry this team back. 2 for 5 from 3 for 15 points. Like, I don't know.
Oh, Tahad.
And in those key moments, he doesn't ever seem to look like a freshman, which is all you can ask for.
He's he's a turn the lights on guy, man. I mean, he's a guy that when, like you call him those Friday night lights guys, when the lights are brighter, he wants to be out there. He's begging to be out there, which is really crazy that he's 18 years old and that's how he feels, because that's usually when you see, we've seen it as an Auburn fan. We've seen freshmen kind of falter towards the end of the year.
That's kind of what made me have lower expectations of Tahad, just because we've had these hot shot 5-star point guards come in, but Tahad's the first one that looked like this, right?
Yeah.
And Sharif Cooper, like that was just a weird year with COVID, with us like, not being eligible for postseason, all that stuff. Like maybe
his injury, he got injured too. I mean,
at the end of it, then his eligibility, like, if Sharif was on this team, would he have that level of impact? Maybe, but Tahad, like clearly as a shooter, just incredible stuff. Incredible stuff.
Well, I mean, think about the confidence that Bruce puts in him. I mean, he's giving him the ball at the end, because you and I said, man, it would have been so awesome if that layup would have gone down at the end, where he drove around, got around the defenders and gets down low and gets amongst the trees and still gets the shot off. It just didn't go in. And that was a called play. They wanted him to be isolated with his guy out there because they knew he could get by him. And I mean, how many times do you do on the road, Southeastern Conference, your head coach makes the call for the freshman, the true freshman, to be the guy they're putting the ball in his hands to make him make something happen? That was huge, man. That's big.
Goodness gracious. Whew. Auburn survives 66 to 63.
Zach.
Yeah.
The last two games have been atrocious on the boards. That has got to get fixed. And they can say what they want about that. They can say what they say about the shots and the long rebounds and all that. No, there were plenty of times where shot went up and we had one guy down there amongst three, or even sometimes amongst four. So
37 rebounds for South Carolina, 33 for Auburn. It felt more lopsided than that. I'm not
because that first half was awful.
Points in the paint, 42 for South Carolina, just 30 for Auburn. That's normally where we dominate, and that's not what happened last time. I mean, they pushed us around. They were bullying us. It was the first time this season, before Janai's injury, of course, but like it looked like they were the more physical team. And we've talked about this going into Houston and going into Iowa State and North Carolina and Duke, saying like, all right, this is the team that can, match up with Janai. And that really hasn't been the case. None of them really slowed Janai down. And we went into this one saying like, all right, this is the one where Janai and like, Chaney and these guys should be able to eat, because they didn't really have the dudes to match up. And that clearly wasn't the case. South Carolina wanted this game way more than Auburn did. Way more.
And I saw a comment earlier, I forgot who it was, but when you were doing the read, I saw a comment and it said, it'd be nice if we didn't have some guy have a career night against Auburn. I'm sorry, you're going to get that with that number 2 moniker on you. Could be number 1 come Monday night or Tuesday, whenever we take on Mississippi State. You're going to get that. You're going to get somebody that wants to improve their draft stock by knocking off a top-seeded Auburn team. And so I know it's nice to say, hey, it'd be great if we could have somebody that didn't pour in 30 against us, but they're trying to move to the next level too. So if they get an opportunity, they get a hot hand, trust me, they're going to feed them, and they're going to whatever's successful against Auburn, that opposing coach is going to keep doing it. So if a guy gets hot, he's going to stay hot, because they're going to go through him every time. You saw it today, went through him every time.
Yeah.
Even at the end of the game.
Goodness gracious. All right, let's finish this up with our, how we finish every stream. And then after this, I'm dropping another video of us reacting to Auburn landing a very talented wide receiver on the recruiting front. That happened like right when we went live. Of course it did. Of course it did. Get it all ready this morning to post later. Of course this happens at the same time.
They were trying to fly under the radar. They knew you were going to do a show. That's what it was.
Yeah, goodness gracious. All right, so Auburn hosts Mississippi State. They go to Georgia, which at this point, I don't feel good about Auburn on the road at all at this point.
No,
I mean, like,
not after we saw what Georgia did in Kentucky.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. You host Tennessee, you go to LSU, and you go to Ole Miss. I've been saying 5-0 pretty consistently, with 4-1 being the most likely option. I'm now saying 4-1 in this stretch. And if you want to say 3-2, just because like you may not have Janai, I'm not going to argue with you.
Well, you took the words out of my mouth. Then 3-2 without Janai, 4-1 with Janai.
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
That's my. I mean, because we saw what Georgia did to Kentucky. LSU's down there at the bottom, but I mean, UT. We don't know what what team is going to show up. The good news is it's going to be in Neville. But then Ole Miss. Ole Miss is tough to beat at Ole Miss. So it could be, and Mississippi State's still the one. Here's to Mississippi State getting banged around and beat up a little bit this evening in their game with Kentucky, but it is at home. And so then they maybe have a letdown on Tuesday, plus Auburn being at home. Maybe they shoot the ball a whole lot better than what they've been doing. But yeah, the UGA game scares me just because of the way they played Kentucky. And then the Ole Miss game scares me too. So I'm thinking 3-2 without Janai. I think 4-1 with.
Yeah. So I don't think Janai plays in these, just gut reaction. So I'll say 3-2. I don't like picking us to lose at home though, just because it doesn't really happen. But Tennessee is very good. Mississippi State is very good. Like, it is what it is. We got a few folks booking saying 5-0, and goodness gracious, I hope you're right. Can you imagine this team goes 5-0 in this stretch without their best player?
That would be, if you go 5-0 without the player, the basically leading up to today's game on College Game Day, as well as all the preview shows, they were Janai Broom's the player of the year. You go 5-0 without the player of the year playing. Yeah, you got a lot of positives that come out with that.
Yeah. And like, let's think about this too. Like Auburn's first two road games in conference play, flying to Austin and coming right back, and then turning around going to Columbia. Like that's tough. That's a tough stretch. Like maybe that played into the sum. I don't love that because you've got multiple back-to-back road games. You go 2 LSU and 2 Ole Miss. Is that going to be as big of a deal? Because they're closer. Like, I don't know. Is there a difference between an hour and a half flight and a 2.5 hour flight? Like, I don't know. Probably not, but I'm just asking the question.
I don't think so. I think that's more.
And then you go back to back. You go to Nashville, then you go to Tuscaloosa. So you've got 2 more of these stretches where you play back to back road games.
Did you literally just ask me if there are any issues with flights with this team?
Oh, 3 more. Then you go to Kentucky and 2 A&M. That's brutal. That's just that's absolutely brutal. So it's weird how they got these scheduled as far as these back-to-back road stints for Auburn. And solid joke about the flight situation. I did seriously ask you that. Yes.
I think they'll be fine. I take it when they're going on the road, I factor in the venue more than I do like the travel time and all that, because they're all in the Southeast. So every flight's going to be hour and a half, 2 hours max whenever they go places. So Maravich Center is kind of wide open. LSU's not that great, so that's not one that concerns me as much as Ole Miss, where it's a little more condensed.
But if you're saying that though, they're probably better than South Carolina. I don't think South Carolina is a good basketball team. This team that we barely beat, I don't think they're a good team.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, that statistics show. I mean, they're at the bottom of the league. That's what I even tweeted out earlier. I said, I did not have on my to-do list today getting dominated on the boards in the first half by the worst team in the league. So clearly they're the worst team, and they were missing a couple of starters as far as this evening. But they had guys step up. They had guys have career days, and that's going to happen. And maybe now that Auburn has got a guy that's down, maybe we have some guys that step up and have career days, Zach. Maybe the roles reverse a little bit, and we have some guys do that.
Well, with the offense not going through Janai as much over the next few days or next few games, got a shot. Does Chaney pop for 20? Does Denver get a little bit more selfish with the basketball and get hot? It wouldn't shock me. That wouldn't shock me at all.
No, and Denver offensively today did not have the greatest game in the world. Defensively, it's always there. That his defense travels everywhere. So if Miles and Denver get to where now they're not going to be left wide open, but they get to where they work for their shot. Tahat can create his shot. He's just quick enough that he can do that step back from the outside. When they buy into that, he blows by the guy. So I'm not worried about Tahat finding his shot. But then again, with Janai not in there, even when Tahad's in there, Zach, we may have to ask him to be a little bit more selfish. Maybe take 1 or 2 more shots than probably what he was doing before.
No problem with it. I mean, Auburn's got the talent, but they are going to have to change who they are, I think. And maybe Chaney steps up and can do some of that stuff. But we've seen him do it. It's just, can he do it at a larger stretch in a game? We don't know yet. We've got to see it.
By the way, we've gone almost 25 minutes and not mentioned that poster of a dunk in the first half that he had over that guy, where he literally he would have dunked on a 15-foot basketball goal when he went up from the top of the key. I mean, that was one of those where it was like, oh my goodness, that man had a family.
Yeah,
and he just went right by him and put it down.
Yeah, we got a few guys that just do not care. Like,
no,
Chaney does not care about you.
No.
Tahad does not care about you.
It's funny because I wish Chaney would do more stuff like that, because when he does stuff like that, you remember when last year Dylan said, oh, the freakish athlete in the entire gym is Chaney Johnson. And you're like, oh, really? And then he does something like that tonight, and you go, oh, this is what he does in practice that none of us get to see.
Yeah, sure. Sure. So all in all, like, not a good game, not a good day, but once again, like, I think my approach is a little different on this one, just because Auburn should have, like, really wrecked this team. I said after the Texas game, if you would have told me Auburn wins by 5 in Austin, I would have been like, I'll take it. I'll take it. This one I don't feel it's good about.
No, I was thinking they would have won by 15 today. I was like,
yeah,
we need it by 15 or I'm not going to take. So yeah, I'm proud of the win. Happy
South
for the
Carolina. Win. South Carolina finished 0 of 6 from the floor, and they didn't score in the last 5 minutes and 18 seconds.
And that was their best free throw shooter that missed 2 in a row when we put him into the line at the end of the game. That is what that coach has got to sit there in that locker room and go, this is why we can't make it to the next step, because you guys can't close out.
Thank goodness.
Thank
goodness.
Exactly.
All right, guys, please like this stream. Please subscribe, all that good stuff. In like 5 minutes, I'm dropping the recruiting reaction video. Just can't believe it. I can't believe both those things happen at the same time. I'm like, this Saturday is going to be so great for engagement. No, let's do it all at once.
Yeah, let's just see. Meanwhile, you have family plans and you're still doing this.
Oh, well, it's a baby shower downstairs. I don't want to be down there anyway. That's fine. That's fine. Ben, how can people check out everything you've got going on?
AUnetwork.com. Download the Radio Alabama app on there Monday through Friday, 6A to 9A. We do sports every morning after 7, and even check out Wednesdays. It's Locked On Wednesday with Zach Blackerby.
That's right. That's right. Once again, like the video, subscribe. We'll see you next time. This has been Locked On Auburn.